So let's get in a little more detail in how this works.
This one is just a quick recap, just to keep it organized there in our heads. There is a few points in the Salesforce organization where you can keep your out-of-the-box security layers, right? Security settings, let's say. So first of all, let's discuss quickly object layer security. So object layer security, it's about what your users can do with the objects overall. So can they create some records? Can they read them? Can they update or delete them? So it's a means CRUD. So create, read, update, delete. So it's access about object itself. So second layer, it's a field level security. It's a little bit dive into the object. So it's particular fields where we store in the real data. Not objects, but fields, actually, keeping the whole data stuff in the Salesforce. And again, it's called FLS because it's a field layer security, field level settings. And record level security, it's about sharings. And this is most complex part, actually, because there is a plenty configurations for this. And record level security, it's about which users can see which records. So it's not about objects, it's particular records. So for example, in the account object, you have plenty records, and some of the users shouldn't see some accounts, etc. So there is three main groups of security layers in the Salesforce data. And what I want to say here also is that object layer security and field layer security placed in profiles and permission sets. And it's understandable. So access to objects and fields should be provided by some configuration of the user groups. It's okay. But about record level security, why it's so complex? It's because there is plenty places where you can configure visibility of the records from global perspective to some insignificant details even. So particular records. Most global, it's or quite defaults. I already said it on previous slide, but there is also roles hierarchy. Again, you have some roles in your Salesforce organization, so you can configure who see what with the hierarchy. Sharing rules, it's more about conditions, who can see what. And manual sharings, it's when you need some granular sharings and visibility of your record. And again, and I want to make point here that everybody forgets about profiles and permission sets also have small part of sharings. It's view and modify all configurations, and it also should be inspected very carefully, because Force admins might forget in some point to just disable it for some users.
Sure. To that point, the important thing here is rather than retroactively having to go back through every single setting, the important thing is when you're introducing a new object or when you're introducing a new field or you're introducing a new user profile or whatever, taking the time to architect that, define that appropriately, and give the admins the right instructions, because more often than not, we run into situations where the admins just create the new field, create the new object, and they don't add that security, and all of a sudden you've got visibility or write access, and then it's not necessarily intentional, but people stumble into things or people accidentally change something. It's not necessarily malicious, but the result is the same. Let's keep moving on here and talk a little bit more about how to identify those issues.
We discussed a little bit about CRUD FLS and sharings and how we can identify some misconfigurations there. So first of all, it's not just, you cannot just go to profiles and permission settings in configurations and just inspect it. First of all, you need to understand data model of your organization. So you need to understand structure of your data. You need to understand structure of your objects, fields, etc. So you need to keep in mind the relationships between data. It's most important, those relationships. In the Salesforce, I can highlight here that we also have a connection which called master detail. And it's also important on this step to understand this particular relationship. It's very important in audit process, because master detail relationship can provide or quite default inheritance here. So for example, you have a account and contact. It's just a sample, it's not real. So some account and some contact. Contact usually have like a detail level of the account. account is a master here. At some point, this master can have ability to give unconditional sharings to the detail records. And what it means? It means that you need to keep in mind that if user see some particular account, probably it will see the contact itself. And this one, it's very important to understand, because sometimes you have a huge amount of custom objects, and usually admins like to create this master detail relationships, and it means that this inheritance of sharings might be placed here and unintentionally reveal some sensitive data and sensitive record to users. Again, everybody forget about external IDs there and unique fields. So you need to also mark them in audit process and in analyze process. Why? Because with high level of certainty, you use these fields in integrations. And it means that those fields marking that this field using in some integration, and you need to keep it in mind, because later, in some later process, you will also inspect all of the integrations as well. So probably they will be related, like a data with external IDs and integration itself. So after all of this data model analysis, you are going to usual CRUD-FLS and sharing models audit. Because again, it's usual. You need to go through all of the profiles, permission sets of all of the sharing rules or quite defaults for every object. You need to inspect role hierarchy, and all of this should bring you to understanding the current model of your security layers.